Hello, Star Trek fans, and welcome to the Rebinge Deep Space Nine podcast. My name is Kim.
And my name is James.
And we're watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine from the beginning, one episode at a time. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are on Season 4, Episode 9, Our Man Bashir. This episode aired November 27th, 1995. Before we talk about this one, anything to say about the Sword of Kahless?
No, it was perfect.
Yeah, that was a pretty good podcast, pretty good episode. I think we enjoyed it.
I thoroughly enjoyed it because it was a very Klingon episode.
I don't always like the Klingons, but I did enjoy that episode.
Well, there was a great contrast between the Klingons. You had three of the main, I would say, factions of the Klingons. You had the very old guard in Core, who is very much a traditionalist. You had Worf, who is the future and is full of honor and really believes in the Klingon mythos. And then you had Terral, who is the embodiment of the House of Duras.
Right.
They are the opposite of everything a Klingon should be.
And you had Frodo and Sam and Gollum.
Ah, yes. It is funny. I didn't really think about the Lord of the Rings aspect of it, but you're right.
Don't know how you missed it. Well, should we talk about Our Man Bashir?
Yes, I think we should.
I was both excited and not excited to see this episode. I only knew that it was a Bond-like thing, right? And I knew the title, and I've seen several people say that this is one of their favorite episodes. That always makes me nervous because I'm just like, oh man, am I going to hate on another episode that people love?
Yeah.
So I would say that we enter into this one with some trepidation. But here we go.
Well, the original Bonds have not aged terribly well.
I would say they weren't really great for their time either, but hey, what do I know? We should do a podcast about, women in James Bond movies. That would be... Nobody would listen to it because they'd be like, yeah, that sucks.
Yes, you could also do negative cultural stereotypes in Bond movies.
No, let's not do that. That would not be fun. In the cold open, a man dressed in black flies backwards through a glass window, hitting the floor. There's music playing that is distinctively like the James Bond music, except in parts where you expect the music to go up, it kind of goes down. So it has just a slight change to it to distinguish it from the Bond theme.
Yes.
Well, anyway, we see Julian wearing a tuxedo approaching a blonde woman in a fancy red dress. The woman hands him a bottle of champagne, and he looks at it closely, and in the reflection, he sees the guy who went through the window get up off the floor and start walking towards him. He whirls around, opening the bottle of champagne, sending the cork flying into the head of the big thug, knocking him down. I mean, this is already hilarious as a cork takes out this huge dude with his menacing eye patch and his giant knife that he's carrying. It was pretty funny.
Oh, yeah.
Julian then makes some ridiculous quip, and then he tells the blonde that his name is Bashir, Julian Bashir, and he pulls her in for a big kiss. And during the kiss, we hear somebody clapping, and Julian kind of looks over his shoulder to see Garak, dressed in a tux, sarcastically clapping at the scene.
Yes.
Julian tells him to get out because breaking into somebody else's holosuite program is both rude and illegal. Like either of those things would stop anyone on this station.
Yeah, like, is there any consequence for any of those actions on Deep Space Nine?
Absolutely not. No way. Garak thinks that Julian's extreme reaction shows that he's embarrassed by his own program.
Ah, yes.
In this scene, Garak appears to be miffed or maybe a little jealous as he complains that Julian spends every free minute that he has in this new program. He pokes at Julian for normally being a blabbermouth about everything else, but having not said anything about this program.
Yeah, he hasn't told anyone exactly what it is.
No.
I'm pretty sure Garak knows exactly what this program is.
Well, yeah.
Hence his interest in it.
Garak moves to within like 3 or 4 inches of Julian's face, and he asks if this is truly Julian's inner psyche. But Julian is like, it's just a fantasy. Garak begs him to stay, and he finally agrees to it.
Yeah.
When Garak sees the blonde woman leaving the room, he sarcastically apologizes for chasing her away. He says, you must be incensed. If I were you, I'd grab a bottle of champagne and shoot me. He's finding this very amusing.
Oh, he really is.
Julian kind of rolls his eyes as they head off together into the program, and we cue the theme song.
Okay, first of all, Garak totally loves Bashir.
Yes, he does.
Either I missed it or I didn't really register it until rewatching this episode, and he totally has a crush on Bashir. He is absolutely in love with him. And I just think from this opening scene and just his interaction with Bashir, You can see he really does have this almost like teenager crush on Bashir.
Oh.
I mean, seriously, it's really kind of funny. And it's sort of cute as well.
Oh, it's very cute. I could see why you might have missed it when you first watched it, because they weren't really making a big deal out of it, and they weren't making it directly part of the story. But it would definitely be something you would see if it made sense in your own world, even if they weren't playing it up. So I can see how you missed it, but you can't miss it now.
Oh, definitely.
And what's up with Garak's long hair? I mean, this is like mullet territory. It is really bad.
Yeah, it does not look good.
Ducat also had long hair earlier this season, and it just looks stupid when all you do is just push it back like that. I don't know. It's way too long.
Maybe since the order has now collapsed, the rules about Cardassians having short hair have expired. There's nobody to enforce short hair.
Maybe. Or there's no barbershop on the station. I thought there was.
Yeah, they definitely need one. Maybe Morn could do it.
I don't want a drunk guy cutting my hair. Might as well just do it yourself. Now we go to Julian's apartment, where Garak picks on the decor. Julian says it's appropriate for the time period, which he says is 1964 in Hong Kong.
Yep.
Now a woman in an outfit not appropriate for the time period arrives carrying a big case. She's essentially wearing a fitted suit jacket and boots and not much else.
And a mini skirt.
Oh, there's no skirt, my friend. There's only a jacket.
Well, that's a mini skirt.
That's a non-existent skirt. It's a jacket. Did you see a skirt? I think you imagined it. And the look on Garak's face at this character is absolutely priceless. Julian introduces the booby woman as his personal valet. Mona loves it.
She's actually from Baywatch, was her other acting credits.
The actress?
Yeah.
I mean, the name is ridiculous, but I guess it could be worse, so I'll allow it. Julian tells her to find them some more comfortable clothing as he starts mixing drinks. Mona opens a wall full of guns as Julian explains that she speaks 7 languages and has degrees in biology, chemistry, and can fly anything. This scene maybe wouldn't be so bad, except when she asks if there's anything else that she can do for him, he very visibly looks down at her chest. I mean, it's unseemly when there are other people, involved and are actually in the program with you. I mean, do what you want when you're by yourself, I suppose, but now you got somebody else watching you and it's just whatever. Okay.
Eyes up here.
Exactly. But that's not really what this program is about. Garak assumes Julian's character is a rich dilettante with a fascination in women and weapons, but Julian says he's a spy. I think he should say he's a spy from books and movies.
I love the response from Garak. A spy? And you live here?
Yeah. He explains that he works for the government of Great Britain and everything he sees is paid for by them. And Garak is like, I joined the wrong intelligence service.
Oh, yeah.
Now we go outside the holosuite to the Orinoco runabout. Sisko, Dax, Miles, Worf, and Kira are all returning from a conference. Invisible Eddington, also known as Snodgrass, clears them for landing when Miles suddenly says there's a power surge in the warp core. He's locked out of the command control systems and is unable to take the warp core offline or jettison the core. Miles says, we've been sabotaged.
And Worf announces they have 10 seconds until the warp core breach.
Yikes. When are we going to secure these ships?
Yeah, you'd think with Worf as the former security officer, he could have kept an eye on the ship.
Yeah, maybe he'll learn from this and start watching them a little bit more carefully.
Yeah.
Snodgrass tries to beam them to safety, and we see the crew start to appear in ops just as the runabout explodes, and we lose another runabout. This is like, 4 or 5.
I just realized that on this show, it's the runabouts that are the red shirts.
That is very true.
I bet Sisko was actually surprised last week when Dax and Worf returned with the runabout.
Oh, I'd already ordered a replacement.
Yeah.
Well, there's some kind of electrical charge on the platform, and they disappear in a cloud of smoke. For some reason, I'm not sure if you noticed this, but Snodgrass's hand is now on the butt of the female NPC next to him. This is a very weird detail and totally uncalled for and definitely an HR complaint if we had HR. You should go back and watch it.
I did not see that.
Yeah. I accidentally paused on it when I was taking notes, and then I went, "What? Wait, what is happening?" I backed it up. It's like, oops, or not so oops, take advantage of a situation. Not saying that's what he would do, but that's what I saw. Well, after the dramatic ad break, Odo rushes in asking what happened. Some of the energy from the runabout explosion traveled back along the transporter beam, blowing up the primary energizing coils in ops. The crew's patterns are in the transporter buffer, but will start degrading if they aren't stored somewhere immediately. Odo says not just their patterns need storing, they also have to store the neural signatures of everyone. The computer says it has insufficient memory to store all of that data, so Snodgrass tells the computer to wipe all memory from every system on the station to make space for the pattern buffer. And everything goes dark, and Odo frantically asks if it worked, but nobody seems to know.
Wow. I wonder if that means that they overwrote the doghouse and killed that sentient program from the probe.
Oh, absolutely. Doghouse is gone. Back in the bomb program, and Garak is putting on a more casual outfit of a tan tweed sports jacket over a rust turtleneck, and Bashir's in a gray suit.
Garak looks very fetching. He looks the part for the time period.
Yeah. Garak thinks this whole world is a bit ostentatious for a spy, though Julian says he's posing as a wealthy jet setter, which is just a made-up thing for these types of stories.
That suit style that Bashir is wearing seems a little modern. It has very squared shoulders.
Yeah, they're into shoulder pads. It's the 90s.
Yeah, it looks off. However, it is very close to Bond's grey suit in Dr. No. I would say definitely inspired by.
What year was Dr. No?
1962.
Okay.
Bond wears other grey suits, but I thought this was clearly very Dr. No inspired.
The cut of the pants, or the trousers, I guess if you're from the UK, is very 60s. But yeah, if there are shoulder pads in that jacket, that is very 90s. So it's like a combo.
Right.
They hear a thudding noise, and Julian presses a button, causing the bar to disappear and be replaced by a green bed. And on the bed is Major Kira in a slinky pink nightgown and heels with pink fluffy stuff on top of the toes.
It's Major Kira doing a Russian accent.
She makes the mirror Dax move of running her hand up her own body with the so-called sexy music playing. This is a thing that somebody who makes this show has a thing about. I don't know.
Oh, along with the Oedipus complex, yeah.
Well, anyway, she appears to have a Russian accent, saying she's Colonel Anastasia Komananov from the KGB. Julian thinks Garak invited her, but he claims innocence.
Yeah, he initially thinks Kira is just playing a joke.
Yes, but this is not Kira. She says she never thought she'd see Julian again after he fell out of that airship over Iceland. And Julian says, well, I had a parachute, and there was a submarine waiting for me. This little detail was quite funny. I thought that was a real poke at the Bond stuff.
Oh, yeah.
They eventually figure out that this isn't Major Kira. Julian tries to freeze the program, but the computer is unable to comply due to a station-wide emergency. So they call ops looking for answers. Snodgrass is surprised to find out that the holosuite program is still running. They tell him about the transporter accident and ask him to not stop the holo program because the holosuite memory core is holding the transporter patterns of the crew. Odo tells him not to do anything to disrupt the holo imaging array. If I was Bashir, I'd wonder at this point if I was just being punked by this whole thing that's going on. But, they persevere into the story.
You'd wonder if he could just freeze the program. We've seen that in TNG. Stop it and then just sit there with Garak chatting until the emergency's over.
Well, that wouldn't have made a very good episode.
The rest of the episode is him and Garak just talking about things. That could have been a good episode. And Garak making doughy eyes at him.
Oh, geez. Kira's character says she's here on business and gives him a folder. In the last 24 hours, a series of artificial earthquakes have struck cities around the world. Faux Kira says their governments want them to work together to find out who caused the earthquakes. They have a clue in that one of the world's leading seismologists, Professor Honey Bear, has been kidnapped. And the closed captions let us know that it's B-A-R-E.
The Kira Russian accent just makes me laugh every time.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And I'm going to bring it up for the first time, but I'm afraid this is so Austin Powers.
The name or which part of it?
All of it to this point.
Oh. Well, yeah, it definitely has a bit of a spoof going for it.
Right.
This was long before Austin Powers, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I will say that in 1967, there was a spoof Bond called Casino Royale that had very much the humorous feel to it. And this also, I think, ties into this particular show. It starred David Niven and actually had Ursula Andress in it as well. It was
right.
It was a pretty funky movie. So this also ties in, I think, here.
Yeah. Well, Garak thinks they should stop fooling around with the story and just hang out in the program. So he wants to do just what you described. But when Faux Kira presents a photo of Honey Bear, it's Dax, of course, with full trill spots and giant glasses.
Yes. Very 90s glasses as well.
Yeah. Bashir says they can't stop being part of the story because if Dax's character is killed, she may be erased from the program. I'm not sure that's how programs work, but okay, now at least we have some motivation to continue.
Right.
Garak's makeup was really visible in this scene. I don't know
Oh,
if
really?
you noticed that, but I could actually see the edges of it on his face, which
Oh.
normally you can't see.
Yeah.
Like, I could see that it wasn't quite blended into his face.
Yeah.
It was very visible.
Well, it was very bright.
Maybe that's why. It's usually pretty dark on the station.
Yeah.
Also in this close-up, Julian's suit looked to be light purple instead of gray. I really hope it was actually purple.
I'm going with grey.
Oh, okay.
Dr. No Grey.
The apartment doors open and we see Mona standing in the doorway holding Julian's laundry. She falls forward, revealing a knife in her back. Two thugs enter pointing guns, and in walks Miles with an eye patch. I laughed out loud at this. It was too funny not to.
I think Colm Meaney had fun with that.
Oh, absolutely. I think they all had fun.
Yeah,
Maybe not Dax.
not so much.
So Miles is someone named Falcon, and he has a falcon image on his eye patch. He points a gun at Julian and says, "We have unfinished business." This is apparently the eye patch guy from the opening scene that Julian hit with the cork.
Yeah, who's now been replaced with Miles's image.
Yes, now he's faux Miles. Miles says, "You should have used something more lethal than a champagne cork." Faux Kira says, "Wait, let us have one last kiss." And Falcon agrees. She whispers earring as Julian leans in for a kiss, and he pulls the earring off her ear and throws it at Miles, causing a mini explosion. Somehow, in the ensuing struggle, the bad guys are all knocked out as the fake Bond music plays again.
Okay, that music is a ridiculously
Yeah.
close play on the Bond soundtrack.
No doubt. They notice after the fight that Garak is bleeding and determine the holosuite safeties must be off.
You've got to have the holo safeties off for it to be a good episode.
Yeah, otherwise, why bother?
Exactly.
Bashir stops Faux Kira from shooting Faux Miles. Garak agrees with Kira and tells Julian to stop treating this like a game, assuming everything will be fine. He says real spies have to make hard choices. You want to save Dax? Fine, but you may not have the luxury of saving everyone. But he is awfully quick to start getting rid of people.
Yeah.
He does not understand Julian at all. But also he's, I guess, gone into his own survival mode, and Julian is doing the Starfleet thing of protecting everyone.
Right. I think this is a turning point for Garak here because it's suddenly gone from being a game into, to a large extent, this is his real world.
Yeah.
The certainties of death and killing, that's where I think Garak's automatic mode kicks in.
Yeah, once he started to bleed,
Yeah,
he's like, wait a minute.
exactly. Once it becomes dangerous, his programming or his training take over. His natural instincts of how to behave in this situation.
Right. Julian asks Faux Kira who has kidnapped Honey Bear, and she says probably Dr. Noah. So they head to a club in Paris where all of the missing people were invited before disappearing.
Dun dun dun.
So how do they get to Paris in 1964? I mean, wouldn't it take quite a while to go and get on an airplane and jet back and forth? Or is time shortened on the holosuite?
I'm guessing time must be shortened on the holosuite because from Hong Kong to Paris, that's like a 24-hour flight.
Yeah.
And the best jet they'd have back then would be like a 707.
007.
Oh, good one. Oh, dear.
Now out on the station, Rom is showing Snodgrass and Odo the controls of the holosuite, which he's had to modify over the years. He's used various things from around the station, like a spatula, and it's like Frankenstein in there.
But it was made of the right alloy.
Yeah, Snodgrass finds that everyone's patterns really are in this program. But Rom says neural energy has to be stored at the quantum level, and the holosuite program can't handle that. So Quark says maybe their brains are now taking up all of the station's memory. Though I don't know how Quark would know anything. He never has anything useful to offer. It's like they had to give him a line.
Yes.
And Odo asks what they're going to do to get everyone back. Big drama.
Okay, there's a couple of things I need to bring up here.
Mm.
The first one is Rom says about how he's basically patching these machines to keep them running. And Quark says he barely breaks even.
On the holosuites.
Yeah, he has the only bar in the station, the only holodecks, and this is a main transit point, not just to the wormhole, but to the Badlands, the Bajor. Quark should be making bank.
Oh, I think he's lying.
Oh.
It's like when you talk to some people who have a lot of money and they're constantly being really tight.
Oh.
I think it's that. Like, oh, I'm not making any money. I'm barely breaking even. Yeah, right.
Oh, okay. That would make sense.
Yeah.
That's true. But also, he's the worst businessman in the universe, and he really genuinely
it is
doesn't make any
possible.
money.
It's possible. He's just screwing everything up.
Yeah. But that's a good point. I will take that under advisement,
All right.
but I still think he's useless.
Could be both. A little bit of both.
Yeah, it could be just be super cheap, and he doesn't buy any replacement components for Rom.
So we go to the Paris bar with girls dancing in cages. And we find Mr. Worf in a natty white tux jacket smoking a cigar, which he keeps awkwardly looking at. It's very strange.
Yeah.
He's Dr. Noah's associate, and he says a meeting can be arranged for 5 million francs. So Julian agrees to play cards for the money.
This character is basically Le Chiffre from Dr. No and Casino Royale.
I'll just take your word for it.
It's a direct parallel with that character.
Casino Royale, not the Daniel Craig one.
Yeah, the 1967 movie where the character was played by Orson Welles. I have a stupid amount of trivia about Bond movies, I'm afraid.
Yeah, this is bizarre. Well, we go to Ops, and Odo says a Cardassian separatist group called the True Way is claiming responsibility for sabotaging the runabout. They're opposed to the peace treaty, and they blame the Federation for Cardassia's economic and political woes. Rom says we need to reintegrate the crew's neural patterns with their physical patterns and rematerialize them. Snodgrass suggests using the Defiant because its systems are independent from the station. Do we have no other engineers to help? I mean, we have Rom and Quark in Ops. This is really our best option?
Yeah, what happened to those two guys that Worf was not being mean to a couple of weeks ago?
Yes, exactly.
I think there's a deliberate thing here, which is to show that Rom actually is very competent.
Well, I agree they need Rom because they're trying to interface to the things that he has been mucking around with. They don't need Quark in any way, shape, or form. But I could see them having some other engineers there. I mean, Snodgrass is not even an engineer.
Right.
He's security, right?
Yeah, but I think the idea here is that Rom is really the smartest guy in the room.
Which is why they should have some other guys in the room.
I think Rom has been underestimated this entire time. This is the whole point. And this is something showing that Rom isn't just, competent. Rom is actually really good. Like Nog said, his father could be the chief engineer on a starship. And I think deliberately this here is showing that Nog isn't just, saying that.
I don't dispute that. What I dispute is that there are no Starfleet engineers there. Because ultimately, he's trying to interface with something made by Starfleet when they connect up with the Defiant. But we never, I know we haven't got there yet, but we never bring anybody from Starfleet in.
Okay, that's a good point.
So what would Rom know about Starfleet stuff? He shouldn't know anything, but somehow he does.
That's where Rom is the genius in this situation.
All right.
Alternatively, the Starfleet engineers basically look at Miles being out of the way as career progression. So, they're not really helping.
I see.
If Miles dies in the transporter accident, I get his job. Remember, Miles got his job in engineering because he left the one person behind on the planet who was the engineer on the ship.
The woman.
Yeah.
Well, Rom says his equipment isn't designed to interface with Starfleet systems, so he's going to have to make some more modifications.
Mars is going to be annoyed about that.
We go back to the card game, and Julian wins the money, of course. Google tells me that the game Baccarat is 100% luck and no skill. I don't know if that's true, but it made me laugh. And it would also make it easy for the computer, I guess, to skew it in favor of the main character.
Oh, that's true. Although this is another scene I was just laughing at because it's pure Austin Powers. Cards aren't my bag, baby. Kira, by the way, looks amazing in that red dress.
Oh, yeah, she looks pretty good. Well, Worf takes a cigar out of his case with a red band, and he blows through it, sending some kind of knockout gas at Julian and friends. And somehow he's immune to it.
Yes.
Julian and Kira go down quickly, but we do see Garak check the floor before he falls.
Apparently, Baccarat and geology are the two most important things in Julian's life.
Yeah, in this Julian. Well, he's playing Merryweather, the character at this point, remember?
I wonder if he was using the Evelyn Trimble method of playing Baccarat. He could have mentioned that.
I don't know what that is.
Peter Sellers' character from Casino Royale, the original spoof Bond.
Oy. Okay. Should I have watched that for us to have this conversation?
Possibly.
Well, now we go to the lair of Dr. Noah, that is high upon Mount Everest. As everyone wakes up on the sofas, Garak says, "Ugh, another decorator's nightmare."
I love that Garak is complaining about the decor.
Yeah, that's all he cares about. Yeah. That and surviving.
This era had a distinct lack of taste.
Yeah.
I would want to tell Garak at this point of just wait until the 1970s. You've not seen anything yet.
Well, in comes Cisco as Dr. Noah, welcoming them to paradise.
Dr. Noah was also the villain from Casino Royale, 1967.
Oh my gosh. Well, Dr. Noah says he believes in an orderly world, not the chaos we find ourselves in today. So he's a founder, apparently.
Oh, I did not make that connection. That's a really good one.
He's building a new beginning for mankind on his island. There's more cigar smoke in this scene, which is just very gross. I can just smell the cigars.
This is textbook Bond villain.
Well, Sisko's even playing up the over-the-top villain role as well. He seems to be really relishing in it.
Oh, completely. He's monologuing, and he has this ridiculous fortress 25,000 feet on the eastern slope of Mount Everest. It's all the Bond cliches rolled into one.
Yeah.
Avery is clearly loving it. It reminded me very much of Dramatis Persona, but he literally has dialed it up to 11 on this.
Yeah, definitely. Bashir asks, "What island are you talking about?" And Dr. Noah presses a button revealing a giant map, and also Dax in a white scientist jacket. His evil plan is to use lasers to penetrate the Earth's crust in a bunch of different locations to produce worldwide earthquakes, creating giant fissures in the Earth's crust, releasing millions of tons of lava.
So he wasn't going to attach the lasers to sharks' heads.
He was not. This will cause the Earth's surface to shrink and everywhere to be covered by oceans, except for apparently his new island at the top of Mount Everest. This plan's a little bit hazy, but okay, it tracks with this kind of movie.
Oh yeah, completely.
Diabolical, Bashir says. Visionary, Faux Sisko corrects. I'm going to let mankind begin anew. He presses a red button under a table, and in comes Miles as Falcon. Garak looks very freaked out as his life is in danger again.
Yes.
On the Defiant, Rom has cables running everywhere. He says he needs another hour before he'll be ready.
Looks like one of my projects, I thought.
It kind of does. Snodgrass says, O'Brien is going to kill me when he gets back, which is true. The place is a total mess.
Maybe those other two engineers could help clear up.
Maybe so. Now we go down into a cave, and Garak and Bashir are handcuffed to metal pillars surrounding one of Dr. Noah's lasers.
So Bond.
The fake Bond music plays again, and
yes.
He says when he presses a button, a 5-minute countdown will begin, and even he won't be able to stop it.
Shouldn't it be 7 minutes?
I don't know why.
Then it would say 007 on the...
Oh. He says when the laser fires, the cave will fill with molten lava. Every time he says molten lava, it's just way over the top. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Bashir asks where Kira is, and he says, she's a spirited individual, young, healthy. We need people like her to propagate the next human race. He flips the switch, and the countdown begins. Very much in line with a story like this, where we don't just shoot Bond.
Oh, very much so. It's so in line with these kind of Bond movies, because he even makes a bad joke as he walks out. He says, "Stay cool, Mr. Bashir."
Oh, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't even write that down.
I had to.
Well, we're down to 3 minutes, and Garak is 100% freaking out. He wants to end the program and get out, but Bashir says no.
Yeah, he's worried it will collapse and kill all of the other characters.
And then Dax inexplicably wanders into the room, and Julian starts flirting with her, which really annoys Garak. He tells her, Noah only wants you for your mind. He can't appreciate the woman inside you. It's like, oh my God.
Garak is rolling his eyes.
Oh, me too. I was right with Garak.
My note actually says, I expect Kim is doing the same thing here.
Well, it eventually convinces her to take off her glasses and let down her hair. And it's just so stupid. And then, of course, she kisses him. This kind of nonsense must be so annoying to play as an actress, but there's just so much of it in all the TV shows and the movies, especially in that era and before.
Yeah.
Well, she slips Bashir the keys to the handcuffs, and within seconds, they're free, and they're running for their lives.
Garak says, kiss the girl, get the key. They never taught me that in the Obsidian Order.
Right.
That actually made me laugh, because as a real spy, that must be the sort of thing that just makes him groan. And just go, oh, really?
Yeah.
You know, like, it's a Unix system.
Oh, yeah. Like anything that we've seen on TV about computers or in movies. That line from Jurassic Park we have laughed about many times.
And we still use it today.
And we still say it today. The caves are collapsing now as the laser fires, which is why it was totally dumb that Dax, as the scientist, walked into that room. But anyway, Bashir says they have to get to the control room because if this program ends the usual way, either Kira or Dax's character will be killed by Sisko's character. He pulls a tiny gun out of the heel of his shoe and assembles it with pieces from his suit pockets.
Which I think is in reference to the man with the golden gun.
Ah. Garak can't believe that he thinks he's going to take on Dr. Noah with the tiny gun, but Bashir reminds him this is his fantasy, and so he knows the story, and Garak should trust him. But Garak has had enough, and he's not willing to die for the others. He says the only reasonable course of action is to quit. He's managed to stay alive while most of his colleagues are dead because he knows when to walk away.
Oh, well, let's not forget, Elim Tain also killed most of Garak's former colleagues in accidents.
Yeah, well then they argue about how Bashir's fantasy steps on Garak's domain. Garak says a real intelligent agent has no ego to bruise and no conscience and no remorse.
Yeah.
Only a sense of professionalism. He calls for the computer, but Bashir points his tiny gun at him. Garak doesn't believe that he'll pull the trigger. He says, you dream of being a hero because deep down you know you aren't. He calls the computer again, and Bashir shoots him in the neck.
Yes.
Leaving a bloody flesh wound. Garak says, that was awfully close. What if you'd killed me? And Bashir says, what makes you think I wasn't trying to?
Because I think we know Bashir. He was aiming for something non-critical.
He was probably aiming for his leg.
That would be really funny.
Well, Garak seems impressed and follows Julian to the control room.
Yes, and Garak says, Doctor, I do believe there is hope for you yet.
Yeah.
He seems quite impressed by that.
Definitely. And attracted to it, you might say.
Ooh, good point.
Faux Cisco realizes that Faux Dax betrayed him and is quite annoyed. Faux Kira, meanwhile, says, you're just in time to stop the lasers, and she struggles with Julian for the gun because she wants to shoot Dr. Noah. The struggle lasts long enough for Faux Worf to wander in and give control of the room back to Dr. Noah.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, people, get it together.
Yep.
Snodgrass calls to say they will try beaming everyone out in 2 minutes. So Bashir starts making a speech because he's just trying to delay. But he says that he's tired of being a hero. And he says to Dr. Noah, your way is the only way. And Cisco shouts, ha! But Julian says defending a doomed planet is pointless. And he wanders over to the control panel where the big button is. He says something similar to what Garak just said about staying alive because he knows when to walk away from a doomed plan.
Yeah, he's basically quoting Garak's speech back at Dr. Noah. Do you notice in the background? It seems like Garak is actually impressed by this.
Well, of course, he's, again, attracted to this. I didn't actually notice it the first time I watched it, but the second time I was like, oh, he just repeated what Garak said.
Yeah.
I don't think I pay very close attention maybe the first time, but the second time I'm forced to because I'm taking notes.
I see.
Back on the Defiant, Rom tells Ops that he's ready and the neural energy can be transferred to the Defiant. Wouldn't it be funny if all the energies ended up in the wrong person?
That would be awesome.
Back in the holosuite, Dr. Noah says he's been looking forward to killing Bashir for a long time. But Bashir walks over and presses the laser button, destroying the world. In Ops, the data has been transferred and control of the station is starting to return as the lights come back on. Back to Dr. Noah, and the map shows the land sinking and the oceans rising. I don't think this would happen quite that quickly, but, okay.
It's the plot.
Yeah. Faux Miles says, you've done it, Doctor. And Dr. Noah says, I didn't expect to win. And the only thing left to do is kill Bashir. But as he raises the gun, everyone is beamed away. Of course.
Nicely
How many times has that happened in Star Trek?
Oh, well, one of the greats is when Data is about to shoot.
Oh, yeah, the collector guy.
Right.
It also happened on this show in, I think, Armageddon Game, didn't it?
Oh, yes, it did.
Yeah. Well, after materializing on the Defiant, Cisco immediately asks what happened, and Miles freaks out about the mess on his ship.
What did you do to my ship?
Snodgrass calls Julian to say he can finally leave the holosuite. Garak finds it interesting that Julian saved the day by destroying the world. Me too. That was good.
It was a nice take.
And then he says that he now sees that indulging in fantasy can keep the mind creative. That's a very good way to look at it. Garak says they should have lunch at his place in Hong Kong tomorrow, unless this was his last mission. Julian says, I think it's safe to say that Julian Bashir, secret agent, will return. And there's big music. The end.
Oh, funny. There was an interesting directing or editing choice when Julian and Garak were arguing. They were really playing the music up.
Well, I think because it was like the end of a Bond movie, right?
Yeah.
So the music swells and... Yeah, because I don't think anything else that they said at that point made any difference, right? They're just wrapping it up.
Yeah.
Do you have overanalysis?
Yes, I do. Now, that leads directly onto my next point of, in these holosuite novels, do they play music in them?
I hope so.
Because that's what I was thinking when they were arguing and it was playing up that dramatic music. I'm like, is this like the background theme that's playing in the novel?
Like the story knows that it's at the end.
Yeah.
Now the credits are going to roll. Yeah.
Precisely. So
maybe.
That's what I was wondering because it seemed sort of strange, but I really liked it. I thought it was
hope
good.
So.
Overanalysis. Next point.
Yep.
I think they need a better protocol for senior staff traveling anywhere.
Yeah, everybody on there and nobody was protecting the ship. Totally agree.
Right.
Should have been 2 shuttles.
Yeah, at the very least. And maybe even an alternative route for one of the other staff.
And maybe someone should have stayed home.
Oh, also a very good idea.
Well, I guess Julian did. He didn't go. Like, why would Julian not have gone to that conference, whatever that was?
Oh, they needed him for the storyline.
Yeah.
So, work on a proper transport protocol, people.
Agreed.
Next thing. Oh my god, Garak is so in love with Bashir. He is like a love-struck teenager. It's so funny.
Oh, yeah, he loves him.
But, at the same time, you'd have to be crazy to get into a relationship with Garak. He's spent a lifetime hiding feelings. How could anybody like that ever really express what they really felt? And how could you ever be sure that what they were saying was real?
And at the first sign of any trouble, he wants to throw everybody under the bus and save himself.
Right. And how much of that would just be so programmed in?
Oh, it's all programmed in. Yeah, for sure.
I think it would be really impossible. Which is also kind of sad for Garak because...
Yeah, definitely.
You know, he probably couldn't relate to anyone.
Definitely.
Next thing.
Yeah.
When Garak is trying to exit, I think he wanted to see how far Bashir would go.
Like it was a test?
Yes. I think as much as him wanting to save himself, he was prepared to push Bashir. And I think he was very happy with the result.
Yes, I think he was very happy with the result.
Here's why. Because I think at heart, he wants somebody who's a kindred spirit. He literally doesn't have anyone who even thinks similar to him, which ties into his crush on Bashir. He would love it if Bashir, at heart, really was a kindred spirit.
Because maybe his attraction to him has always just been kind of purely physical.
Yeah.
And now that he's getting to know Bashir a little bit more and realizing maybe there are some depths that he didn't understand before,
yes,
the love is starting to deepen.
Right.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think part of this as well is this is also a Garak fantasy, that Bashir could be a spy like him. Somebody who is the same as him, who could understand him. And that's kind of what Garak loves.
Oh, I never thought about it. That's why he wanted in here. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, I like that.
In some ways, it makes Garak kind of tragic.
Oh, Garak is very tragic. In more ways than that.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. He is a very tragic character. Just the fact that he's stuck on this station, you know, I think we learned that in The Wire.
Oh, right.
The tragedy of his life, yeah.
Abandoned by the very people that he has devoted his life to protecting, in his view of protecting.
No, absolutely. You could have predicted that he would struggle with love.
Yeah.
Because of everything that's happened in his life.
Right.
He definitely loves Tane, not in the same way. I still think Tane is his dad. But he definitely has... you know, lots of love for him, has done everything to protect him, risked his life to protect him.
Yeah.
And was immediately back in league with him when the opportunity arose because he wanted to be close to him. And Tane kind of continues to abandon him and really did it again in that 2-episode arc that we watched last season. But, you know, he's got nothing that he can cling to just in terms of love, except for his love for Cardassia, which is why it's really not realistic and, you know, so overblown.
Yeah, right. And being exiled from that underlines it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, next point.
Okay.
It is alleged that MGM were very concerned about the Bond theme of this episode, and they
Really?
sent a letter to the production studio over it. I can understand it because this is so close.
Yeah.
Things like the music, the suit, it feels like an amalgam of Dr. No and From Russia with Love sort of rolled together. I think they really were pushing the envelope of how close they could make it to a Bond story without it being basically completely a Bond story. And although he says Julian will return, it's probably not a spoiler to tell you he doesn't.
Well, that's either a sign that the episode fell flat or that, they decided they didn't want to poke at that bear anymore.
Right.
It's hard to say. I mean, I've not even seen that many Bond movies, and I knew it, what they were doing, right? The music was maybe the biggest clue of all, but also the story was pretty classic.
Yes.
Yeah. Anything else?
I think that wraps it up. Not a lot of analysis because it's really a holodeck episode.
Yeah. So I have 3 things in my overanalysis.
Okay.
The first one we already talked about, which was Rom and Quark are the only ones who can help, and we already talked about that.
Yeah.
My second point, though, is do you think Julian was shooting Garak to kill?
I don't think so. I think he was aiming to wound him.
I mean, he aimed at his head, which seems like you're trying to do something, but maybe just to stop him from speaking.
Yeah. You could...
He would have shot off his tongue if he could have.
You could make the argument that maybe he was actually just firing a warning shot, and that was actually a ricochet, or Julian is a bad shot and didn't hit him.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. He probably was just trying to fire it close to him, and it ended up shooting him. But also, taking down 1 to save 5 seems fair, and something that, you could legitimately do.
Also a good point.
Okay, here's my third point.
Okay.
Why do I all of a sudden love Snodgrass? What is happening?
He seems very diligent, and he seems very committed to the role.
He definitely does. I don't know what it is. I love his voice. I love the way he speaks. I'm not always super excited about the things that he says, but I don't know. There's just something about him. I so loved him in this episode. I thought he was great. I was really happy to have him here, even though I thought it was weird because he's not an engineer. And he didn't call for an engineer. He was just using the guy from the bar. But okay, I take your point. But still, all of a sudden, I really like Snodgrass. He should show up a little bit more. I'm into him.
Okay. This is not the last time we see Snodgrass.
Oh, good. Okay, that is it for overanalysis. So let's go to women in the future. And there's a reason I don't watch those pre-Daniel Craig Bond movies. They're misogynistic, they're demeaning, they're ridiculous, they're overhyped.
Don't forget the racially insensitive.
And they're downright silly. And that's just not for me. I mean, there's really nothing in that for me. You've known me a long time, and you know that to be absolutely true.
Oh, completely.
Skyfall, unfortunately, was one of the Daniel Craig Bond movies that I thought took such a step backwards. And I was tempted when we walked out of that theater. I remember I was just like, oh, I am never watching another Bond movie. I was so mad. But now I'm over it, and so I'll probably watch another one. But we went back to some of those old, stupid things where I'm just not interested in it. So the portrayal of women in this episode comes directly from things that I really don't like.
Yeah.
So it's not cool. Not super thrilled with that. But I don't really care whether Julian has a fantasy about being a spy, as, presumably these characters were all based in fiction, or maybe they're just based on types, that he was attracted to. And I don't have any problem with that because they're made up characters. They weren't Dax and Kira in his original program. They were other people. That final scene with Dax was absolutely Bond-like stupid and really irritating, but it made sense in the context of the fantastical story. So I forgive it. It's like, okay, I get why they did that. So that's really all I have to say about Women of the Future. It wasn't really them, and it wasn't a choice that Julian made to have them in his story.
Yeah.
He definitely would have made a choice not to have them there.
Well, he seemed genuinely annoyed when Kira appeared. He thought that was her just messing around with him.
Absolutely. So I'll just let it go. So let's go to rating. Thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral. What is your rating?
Okay.
Oh.
This is where it gets really difficult for me.
Okay.
And the elephant in the room is Austin Powers.
Yes.
Because Bond movies as a whole have aged very badly. Austin Powers put the nail in the coffin for that campy, tropey nature of them. And unfortunately, that includes our Man Bashir. There are so many aspects of this episode where I was laughing because I'm like, oh, this is Austin Powers. When some of it is funny and campy, but Austin Powers just makes a mockery of it. However, I think this episode is more in line with the 1967 Casino Royale, which was a spoof in its own right and poked a lot of fun at Bond.
Yeah.
That had a ridiculous number of big stars in it at the time, including Peter Sellers. So I don't know if the writers were aiming at Casino Royale or were aiming at Dr. No and From Russia with Love.
Right.
But the problem is Austin Powers just makes a parody of everything. So my rating, taking it in the time it was made and when I watched it, I liked it as a Bond movie. I liked it as a parody of Bond and having basically being a fun holo novel kind of episode. I enjoyed it. Taking it in a modern context, it just looks too silly. Thanks to Austin Powers for doing that.
Well, I think your rating should be for now.
Well,
in my opinion. But, do what you want to do.
well, rating it for back then, thumbs up. Rating it for now, neutral.
Oh, wow.
And I'll add to that, the other side of this is the Daniel Craig Bond. Daniel Craig made Bond a very different character.
True.
So, outside influences changed this episode. Rating it for today, neutral. And it only took me like 10 minutes to get to that point.
I liked it.
Really? That is so funny. I am sitting here kind of in shock.
I enjoyed it. I mean, it was goofy, but there were stakes.
Yeah.
Like with Move Along Home, the thing I didn't like is there were no stakes. The goofiness in it was fine. But at the end, nothing mattered. They weren't really in danger. And I know that you say that they didn't know that, whatever. But there were stakes. And I like that. I also really liked how Garak appeared jealous and kind of incredulous that this was of interest to Julian. That this was a world he didn't really relate to or understand, even though it was connected to his reality.
Yeah, right. I didn't see that jealousy, but you were right there. It was something that was competing for Julian's time, and Garak was jealous.
Yes, because I think he felt like he could be enough for Julian, with their lunches, and maybe if he could convince him to date him, I don't know. But now he sees this, and he can't give him this.
He's a real spy.
Yes. And also, I think that he's obviously never had much time for the fantastical, even based on the fiction that he likes to read. So I really like that part of the story. Maybe I'm way over analyzing, but that's okay. That's what we're here for, right?
No, I think you're right.
But at the end, he was like, okay, I can see how this can be a good thing and it can keep your brain sharp. He kind of compartmentalized his jealousy there, I thought, at the end, and was like, no, I could be a part of this, so he's finding a way to get into Julian's interests. And that's what you do with someone you love. So I like that.
Yeah.
Did I like the goofy stuff with Dax? No. But like I said, I forgive it. All I ask for in stories like this within Star Trek is that I want there to be stakes, and I don't want them to lose the Star Trek part of it.
Yeah.
So, it needs to be mixed into that story. Like if they had left out the part with Snodgrass and Odo and Rom and all of that, I would probably have not liked this episode as much. But we still had the Star Trekkiness of it.
Oh, completely.
So I liked it. I give it a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Is it one of my favorite episodes? Probably not, but I enjoyed it.
Interesting. There were definitely good aspects of this, but I think it's just kind of, for me personally, it's kind of aged badly.
Well, I know you kept coming in while you were watching. You kept coming in to tell me that you couldn't watch it anymore. It was Austin Powers. It had ruined it for you. Whereas when I watched Austin Powers, I really hadn't watched any James Bond. And so I thought Austin Powers was just kind of dopey. It didn't do anything for me, so it didn't impact me in any way. So I barely remember it.
What Austin Powers did is it really made fun of those very silly Bond things. For me, I thought that movie was hilarious because it pokes fun at so many Bond things. I remember how much I laughed at that in the theater.
I remember you laughing. Yeah.
So,
although you laugh at lots of things.
Yeah, that's true.
Only Murders in the Building.
Oh gosh, yes. We actually, viewers, have to watch that separately because I laugh so much at that.
That's not the only thing. Also, Dairy Girls we can't watch in the same room.
Oh god, Dairy Girls is so funny.
Yeah. All right. Is that it?
I think so.
So that wraps it up for season 4, episode 9. Come back next week for episode 10. And also, I believe our once a season guest host, Atiba Royster, will be joining us.
Yes.
In the meantime, if you'd like to leave us your own over-analysis of this or any episode, or if you just want to say something nice, please email us at rebingeit@gmail.com or tweet us at rebingeit. Check us out on talkthroughmedia.com. You can leave feedback for individual episodes there, and you can listen to the other podcasts on our network, like James's and my new podcast, Star Trek Prodigy, a Rebingeit podcast. But never fear, we won't give up on this podcast until we've gotten all the way through the show.
To the bitter end.
Because we are bitter enders.
Absolutely. Although it's not really a bitter end. I mean,
it absolutely is not, no.
I love Deep Space Nine all the way through to the end.
And we're enjoying the conversation.
And I'd even be in favor of a sequel to it.
Wow. A remake?
No.
A sequel.
Actually said it.
Deep Space 10.
No, keep it as a 9, but
Oh.
set it 30 years in the future.
I love it when I tell a joke that I find funny.
Apparently so.
That's like my favorite thing.
Well, thanks for joining us on the Rebinge Deep Space Nine podcast.
That's it for me.
And that's it from me.